Hello, and welcome back to English Everyday Podcast. I'm Sam. I was having coffee with a friend yesterday, and she told me something interesting. She said, Sam, I've been learning English for 2 years now, and I can read pretty well, I can write emails, but when someone talks to me, I panic. I just freeze. And then she asked me, why is speaking and listening so much harder than reading and writing? And honestly, I get this question all the time. It's probably the most common thing people ask me about learning English. So today, I thought, let's talk about this. Let's talk about why listening feels so hard, why speaking feels even harder, and what you can actually do about it. We're going to practice slow, clear English together. You're going to listen, and more importantly, you're going to speak with me. That's the key. Not just listening passively, but actually using your voice, moving your mouth, practicing the sounds. All right, quick reminder about how this works. You see the captions on your screen, right? Those words you're reading right now. I want you to speak along with me at the same time, like we're having a conversation together, like you're echoing everything I say. Don't wait for pauses, just speak the words as you see them. That's the shadowing method, and it's one of the best ways to improve your speaking and listening at the same time. Okay, let's get into it. So, why is listening so hard? I mean, really, think about it. When you read English, you can take your time. You can stop, you can look up a word you don't know, you can read a sentence 3 times if you need to, but when someone is talking to you don't have that luxury. The words just keep coming, and you have to understand them in real time. And speaking? That's even worse, because now you have to produce the language, not just understand it. You have to find the right words, put them in the right order, pronounce them correctly, all while the other person is waiting for you to say something. It's a lot of pressure. I remember when I was learning French, I had this exact problem. I could read French novels, like actual books written for French people, not learner books. But when I went to France and someone asked me a simple question like, "Where are you from?" my mind would just go blank. I knew the words, I knew how to answer, but in that moment, nothing came out right. And you know what the problem was? I hadn't practiced enough listening and speaking. I had spent all my time reading and studying grammar, but I hadn't trained my ear to understand real spoken French, and I hadn't trained my mouth to produce the sounds quickly and naturally. That's what we're doing right now, by the way. You're training your ear by listening to me speak at a natural but clear pace, and you're training your mouth by speaking along with me, by making the same sounds I'm making, by following the same rhythm. Let me tell you something important. Fluency doesn't mean perfect. Fluency means speaking smoothly and naturally, even if you make some mistakes. It means the words flow without you having to stop and think about every single word. A lot of people think fluency means speaking like a native speaker with no mistakes, but that's not it. I know native English speakers who make mistakes all the time. I make mistakes. I sometimes use the wrong word. I sometimes forget what I was going to say. I sometimes have to restart a sentence because I messed it up. Fluency is about communication, not perfection. Can you express your ideas? Can people understand you? Can you have a conversation without long, awkward pauses? That's fluency. And here's the thing. You build fluency by practicing, not by studying grammar rules in a textbook, but by actually speaking, by actually using the language. That's why this shadowing practice is so valuable. You're not just learning about English, you're actually doing English. Now, I want to talk about something that I think holds a lot of people back. It's this feeling of being self-conscious. Self-conscious means being worried about what other people think of you, being aware of yourself in an uncomfortable way. When you're learning a language, it's so easy to feel self-conscious. You're worried about your accent. You're worried about making mistakes. You're worried that people will judge you or laugh at you. And so you don't speak. You stay quiet. You avoid conversations. But here's what I learned, and this is something that really changed things for me. Most people are not judging you. Most people are actually impressed that you're trying to speak their language. Think about it. If someone came up to you and tried to speak your language, even if they made mistakes, would you laugh at them? Would you think they're stupid? No. You'd probably think, wow, that's cool that they're trying. You'd want to help them. Native English speakers are the same way. When they hear you speaking English, even if it's not perfect, most of them are going to be patient and helpful. They're not sitting there thinking about your mistakes. They're just trying to understand what you're saying and have a conversation with you. So try to let go of that self-conscious feeling. I know it's hard. I still feel it sometimes when I speak French or Spanish. But the more you practice, the more comfortable you get, and the less you worry about what other people think. And you know what helps? Practicing in a safe environment. Like right now, you're at home, you're speaking along with me, nobody is judging you. This is your safe practice space. Use it. Speak out loud. Don't just read the words in your head, actually say them. Move your mouth, make the sounds. I know some of you might feel silly talking to your computer or your phone, but trust me, this works. Every actor, every singer, every public speaker practices alone before they perform in front of people. You're doing the same thing. You're practicing. Let me tell you a quick story. I have a student, her name is Maria, and when she first started learning English, she would never speak in class, never. She would write things down, she would nod her head, but she wouldn't use her voice. And I asked her why, and she said, "I'm afraid I'll say it wrong." So I told her, "Maria, everyone says things wrong when they're learning. That's part of the process. But if you never speak, you'll never improve. You have to make mistakes to get better." And slowly she started speaking more. First just 1 or 2 words, then short sentences. And you know what? She made a lot of mistakes. But she kept going. And now, 2 years later, she's pretty fluent. She can have full conversations. Does she still make mistakes? Yeah, sometimes. But she doesn't care anymore. She just communicates. That's what I want for you. I want you to get to that point where you're not afraid anymore, where you just communicate and don't worry so much about being perfect. Now, let's talk about listening skills specifically. One thing that really helps with listening is understanding context. Context means the situation or background information that helps you understand something. It's the surrounding details that give meaning to words. When someone is speaking to you in English, you don't have to understand every single word to understand the message. You can use context. You can look at their body language. You can think about the situation you're in. You can use the words you do understand to figure out the words you don't understand. First, let's talk about listening. Often, when we think about speaking English, we forget about how important listening is. But listening is actually the key to unlocking your speaking abilities. Think about it. You can't respond in a conversation if you don't understand what the other person is saying. Or how can you pick up new words and phrases if you can't hear how they're used? One way to practice listening is to get used to how English sounds and try to understand the main idea even if you don't know every single word. It is like a superpower. Your brain can fill in the gaps using context. For example, let's say you're in a restaurant and the waiter asks you something and you only catch the words drink and would you like. Even if you didn't hear the whole sentence perfectly, you can probably figure out they're asking what you want to drink, right? That's using context. Or let's say you're listening to a story and someone says, "I was so tired, I went to bed at 7 o'clock." And let's say you didn't know the word tired, but from the context, from the fact that they went to bed early, you can guess that tired probably means sleepy or exhausted. This is a really important skill. Don't try to understand every single word. Focus on the main idea. Focus on the key words. Use context to fill in the gaps. Native speakers do this too, by the way. Sometimes I don't hear exactly what someone said, but I use context to figure it out. It's a natural part of communication. Another thing that helps with listening is exposing yourself to different accents and speaking speeds. English sounds different depending on who's speaking it. Someone from the UK sounds different from someone from the United States, who sounds different from someone from Australia, who sounds different from someone from India. And people speak at different speeds. Some people talk really fast. Some people talk slow and clear. If you only ever listen to slow, clear English from teachers or learning materials, you're going to struggle when you hear real, natural English in the wild. So my advice, mix it up. Listen to different types of English. Watch movies and TV shows from different countries. Listen to podcasts with different speakers. Get your ear used to variety. At first, it'll be hard. You might not understand much, but over time, your brain adapts. You start recognizing patterns. You start understanding more and more. And here's something interesting. When you practice speaking, you actually get better at listening too. They're connected skills. When you train your mouth to make English sounds, your ear gets better at hearing those sounds. It's like your brain builds a connection between the sound and the feeling of making that sound. That's why shadowing is so effective. You're doing both at the same time. You're listening to me and you're speaking the same words, so your brain is making those connections. Let me talk about pronunciation for a minute. Pronunciation is how you say words, the sounds you make when you speak. Good pronunciation means people can understand you easily. A lot of learners worry too much about having a perfect accent. They want to sound exactly like a native speaker. But here's the truth. You don't need a perfect accent. You just need clear pronunciation so people can understand you. And actually, having an accent is totally normal and totally fine. I have an accent when I speak French. Native French speakers can hear that I'm not French, but they can understand me, and that's what matters. Focus on pronunciation for clarity, not for sounding like someone you're not. Make sure you're pronouncing sounds clearly enough that people can tell the difference between words, like ship and sheep should sound different. Think and sink should sound different, that kind of thing. And the way you improve pronunciation is by, you guessed it, practicing speaking, by moving your mouth, by making the sounds over and over until they feel natural. Some sounds in English don't exist in other languages, so they feel weird at first, like the TH sound in think or this. A lot of languages don't have that sound, so if that's hard for you, that's normal. You just need to practice it more. And you know what helps? Watching how native speakers move their mouths. Like right now, if you were watching a video of me, you could see how my mouth moves when I make different sounds. You can imitate that. You can copy it. I remember practicing French sounds in front of a mirror because some of those sounds felt so weird to me. I felt ridiculous, but it helped. I could see what my mouth was doing wrong and adjust it. Okay, let's talk about speaking practice outside of this podcast, because listening to me and shadowing is great, but you also need to practice having real conversations. You need to practice thinking of what to say and saying it, not just repeating what someone else says. So, how do you do that if you don't have English-speaking friends? Well, there are a few ways. First, you can talk to yourself. I know, it sounds weird, but seriously, this works. When you're alone, narrate what you're doing in English. Okay, now I'm making coffee. I need to boil the water. Where is my cup? Just talk through your day in English. Or have imaginary conversations. Practice introducing yourself. Practice ordering food at a restaurant. Practice asking for directions. Just talk out loud even if nobody is there. This helps you get comfortable with producing the language spontaneously. Second, you can find language exchange partners online. There are apps and websites where you can connect with people who want to practice languages. You help them with your language, they help you with English. It's free, and it's a great way to get real conversation practice. Third, you can join online English conversation groups. There are communities on social media, on Discord, on all kinds of platforms where learners get together and practice speaking English. Everyone is learning, so nobody is judging your mistakes. The point is, find ways to use your English actively, Don't just be a passive consumer of English content, be an active participant. Now, I want to talk about something that I think is really important for building confidence. Confidence means believing in yourself and your abilities, feeling sure that you can do something. Confidence in speaking English doesn't come from knowing everything perfectly. It comes from practice and from accepting that mistakes are part of learning. Every time you speak English, even if you make mistakes, you're building confidence. You're proving to yourself that you can do it, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. I've seen this with so many students. They start out barely able to say a sentence without panicking, but they keep practicing, they keep showing up, they keep speaking even when it's hard, and over time, they transform. They become confident speakers. You can do the same thing. You're doing it right now. Every word you speak along with me is practice. Every episode you listen to, every time you use your voice, you're building that confidence. Don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait until you think you're good enough. Just start. Start where you are. Speak the English you know, even if it's just basic sentences. You'll get better by doing it, not by waiting. And here's something I want you to remember. Every fluent English speaker you've ever met, every person who sounds really good, they all started where you are right now. They all went through that awkward phase of not knowing what to say, of making mistakes, of feeling frustrated. The only difference between them and you right now is time and practice. That's it. They're not smarter than you. They don't have some special talent you don't have. They just practiced more. So give yourself time. Be patient with yourself. Celebrate small progress. Maybe last month you couldn't understand this podcast at all, but now you're understanding most of it. That's progress. Maybe last week you were too shy to speak along, but today you're doing it. That's progress. Learning a language is a journey, not a destination. You're not trying to reach some finish line where you suddenly become fluent and then stop. You're constantly growing, constantly improving. I think sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves. We want to be fluent right now, immediately, but that's not realistic. Even native speakers are still learning new words, new expressions, new ways to communicate throughout their entire lives. So take the pressure off. Just enjoy the process. Find things in English that you actually enjoy. Watch shows you like, read books about topics that interest you, listen to music. Make it fun, not just work. Because if you enjoy it, you'll stick with it. And if you stick with it, you will get better. It's guaranteed. You know what's amazing? The fact that you're here right now, listening to this, speaking along with me, that shows you're committed. That shows you care about improving. And that attitude is going to take you so far. A lot of people say they want to learn English, but they don't actually do anything about it. They don't practice. They don't show up. But you're different. You're here. You're putting in the work, and that matters. All right, we're coming to the end of today's episode. Let me just recap what we talked about. We talked about why listening and speaking feel harder than reading and writing. We talked about fluency being about communication, not perfection. We talked about letting go of being self-conscious. We talked about using context to understand better. We talked about pronunciation and the importance of active practice. And we talked about building confidence through consistent effort. The main message I want you to take away is this. You can do this. You're already doing it. Every time you practice, every time you speak, every time you listen to English, you're getting better, even if you can't see it right away. Don't compare yourself to other people. Don't worry about how long it's taking. Just focus on showing up consistently and putting in the effort. That's all you can control. And remember, mistakes are not failures. Mistakes are proof that you're trying, that you're pushing yourself, that you're learning. Every mistake is a step forward, not a step back. I'm really proud of you for being here today. I know learning a language is challenging. I know it takes courage to speak in a language that's not your native language, but you're doing it. You're brave, you're dedicated, and you are going to succeed. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Thank you for practicing, for speaking along, for not giving up. You matter, your effort matters, and you're making progress every single day. If you found this helpful, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me how your English learning journey is going. Tell me what you're struggling with. Tell me what topics you want me to cover in future episodes. I read every comment, and your feedback helps me make better content for you. All right, I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, keep practicing, keep speaking, keep believing in yourself. You're doing amazing, and I mean that. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.